I was looking through the GSS for my plots, and I figured that relationships, and specifically like marriage, divorce, and things that might affect that, would be interesting to look at. So, I started looking at marriage, and I kind of thought, marriage rates, they're probably not going to change much over time. But actually, they changed a lot over time. So, from 1972 to 2014, which is the range of years for the entire GSS data set, you can see that the trend in marriage, like percent currently married, is strongly decreasing. So I was kind of like, this looks like it might be significant, why don't we test it? And it turns out it is. So, because it's so strongly decreasing, we can actually predict the end of marriage, which is, kind of morbid, maybe, but we can sort of look at that. And so we can sort of predict the end of marriage to be in 2082. And that's when all of the respondents would not be currently married when they responded. So then I was kind of like, what affects marriage? So, maybe affairs. And I decided to look at affairs in the years 1994, 2004, and 2014, because that's when they asked the questions, or those are years when they did ask the question. And what I found was kind of interesting. So, maybe not unexpected, but the proportion of men who admitted to having affairs across all 3 of the years was higher than the proportion of women who admitted to having affairs. So either this means that men are actually more prone to having affairs than women, or maybe they're lying. Or everyone's lying. Someone's lying. So, and that's a survey, which means they can do that. So, this could be, whether that's due to societal norms and men feel more comfortable talking about it, that might be the case. But that was an interesting thing I found across those 3 years. And then I kind of went, what would affairs do to marriages? And that might end in divorce. So I decided to look at the trend in divorce rates. And we hear that the divorce rate is increasing, so it's not that unexpected that we would find an increasing trend. But I also found that this is a significant relationship too. So we can also, again, accurately predict the year when all of the respondents would have had at least one divorce or been separated legally at least one time, and that year is 3212. So what we can sort of say from this is that it's kind of, the marriage prospects are really great, and we can rest assured that marriages are, how they're doing great. They're doing great. So,
I have a comment. Can we go back to the last slide? So if we actually do some simple algebra and you assume the starting for equal proportions of men and women, you cannot mathematically have a different number of affairs on average for women and men. So somebody's definitely lying.
That's the kind of thing you find. So, any questions? Yeah, Esme.
So I noticed that there was both a spike in percentage marriage, and a spike in percentage divorce.
Yeah.
In 2005, do you have any idea why that might be?
I don't know, but I was thinking, it would be really interesting to look at. When you look at the decline in marriage, maybe that's due to an increase in civil unions or things like that over time, sort of maybe like some states legalize gay marriage and things like that. I don't know, but divorce, I have no idea. It's kind of interesting, especially when you look at this spike here between 1989 and 1990, what exactly happened there where the divorce was just skyrocketed so high. So maybe that's maybe that's less data in those years. They started the GSS started, they started taking it every 2 years instead of every year. So that might have had something to do with how the data looked and represented.
Okay,
yes. Okay.
So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and then I saw Sarah's graphs, and I was like, oh, that's really depressing and kind of dark. And so I wondered if I could find a data set that kind of had showed a relationship between divorce and other factors or something. So my data set was a snapshot from the year 2000, and the first thing I did was just simple looking at people's age and the number of divorces. So this is of people that were currently married, so it makes sense that people under the age of 20 aren't divorced yet. So it's pretty soon if you're getting married at 18 to be divorced by 20. It's kind of early. And it made sense to me that people around, they would continue to incline to like 40 or 50 and then decline. But I thought what was really interesting is people over the age of 70 suddenly had a spike again in the number of divorces that they had. So that could just be an anomaly with my data set and just the people they asked, or if there's another reason that suddenly people over 70 decide to get married a lot more. So it'd be something to, definitely something interesting to continue to look into. And the next thing I thought was interesting is they asked for astrological signs in the survey. And so when I did this, I anticipated that it would kind of be even, but it turned out that if you're a Leo or an Aquarius, for some reason, they had less average divorces. But if you're a Cancer, you're just really prone to getting divorced. So if you believe in horoscopes and what they say about your personality, Cancers, I'm really sorry if somebody in here is one. I take it personally, and I just thought that was something really interesting within the data. And then the last thing I looked at was people that consider themselves to be in religious marriages versus people that consider themselves not to be in religious marriages. So my chart here is a little weird, but the bars, so blue bar is people that have not been divorced, green is when divorced, and so on. And so what I thought was interesting is that there's clearly a higher percentage of people that have not been divorced with religious marriages, but there's also more divorces later on. So it's more people that are not considered to be in religious marriage have 90% of them have only been divorced once or have not been divorced at all, where in religious marriage 50% of people have not been divorced, but there's clearly a lot more people that have been married more than once. So I thought that was interesting, that there's actually people getting divorced multiple times more frequently in religious marriages. So yeah, those were my thoughts.
I'm sorry. Did you actually look to see if they gave you a little chart to let you know what your astrological sign is, or because it could have just been people guessing too?
They just said in the CSV what people said it was. So they gave their birth date too. So I don't know if it was put in afterwards or if it was people saying. So I'm assuming they put it in because they also gave their birth date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did your data all kind of separate which religious groups had higher divorce rates, or just religious versus non-religious?
So the options they gave you is that you didn't consider yourself to be in one, that you were Catholic, Lutheran, Christian, or other. And so with other, I was like, I don't know what people would consider for other, so I was like, I decided to kind of clump them together because I wasn't sure what to put other as. Yeah.
For your first graph, was it an even amount for the ages? So they surveyed 20 people at the age of 20, 20 people at the age of 30 to 40. Was it even, or was it kind of just all over the place?
There were a lot less people that were below the age of 20 and 70. That was the two that had less. So that's why I think the 70 could just be an anomaly within my data set. But I think because it was just whoever was answering, so there's a lot less people in those ranges.
Okay.
Okay.
Widows and widowers and how many years
I'm sorry?
Widows and widowers, if at all they were counted?
They weren't. It was a separate column, and I didn't use it in the data set.
Okay, next.
Right, the thing is, they actually wanted to address things that matter, and turned out to be a little depressing looking at some of this stuff. I decided to do something that doesn't really matter, and isn't that important. But anyway, yeah, let's take a look. I wanted to the data set that was given was just statistics for pretty much every Pokemon was in there. Given all their statistics, and I took a look at the three major ones being their attack stats, their defense stats, and their speed stats. I wanted to address how those might tell us about how these creatures might interact if they were, say, real creatures. And we're taking a look at the means of attacks per kingdom of each. I guess, yeah, these are the kingdoms explained here, and as you can see here, the highest one would be the dragons, and second has to be fighting, which kind of makes sense because in even all mythology, dragons are usually really aggressive and tend to be some of the most powerful beings out there, except for, I guess, humans who can take them down all the time. Fighting, obviously, they're Pokemon that somehow inexplicably have knowledge of martial arts, and it would make sense that they're really high up there in the attack scale. Defense, It's pretty obvious that rock tends to be the highest because if you ever hit a rock wall, I mean, it's going to hurt you more than wall. So they're obviously very well adapted to
Jorge, go on to your next slide.
defending against a lot of attacks. And then finally, we look at speeds, and the highest one would be flying because flight generally tends to have the best mode of travel. And Barry, don't really lose that often. And that's, that's it for my data set.
Oh, I got mixed up. Let me see the other slide again. Okay, let me see the first one. Mean attack. Oh, okay. So that was attack. The next one's defense. Okay.
Is there any reason why the fairy Pokemon have a greater attack than flying Pokemon? Because they are fairies.
Well, I mean, generally you have a lot of magical abilities, so maybe, in fairy tale, obviously, there's always these bad guys, so, presumably they have to fight these things off with rather, whatever magic they have. And flying, I mean, if you take a look at a lot of birds, they just kind of like stay away from a lot of competitors down below. Although it does seem kind of strange because dragons fly and they have to deal with dragons, so maybe they're just sort of constantly being destroyed by them, but I don't know.
Did you happen to graph special attack and special defense at all?
Just standard attack.
It would be interesting to see what those look like too.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a bug kingdom and a flying kingdom?
So flying is usually just, I limited the way that the data set was all mixed up, so I limited down to just flying, and bug are just sort of insects, so ones that aren't have any flying based abilities or they don't fly at all is what that segmentation is for.
So very
Or, go ahead.
Okay, can you just explain like what does 100 attack mean?
The data set didn't come with units or anything, and that's one of the problems with the data set. So a lot of this is more relativistic, so just the fact that this one's higher than someone else's is what you want to extrapolate from the data. But there's no, it's sort of an arbitrary number that's just, this is sort of an example of, pretend these are real animals, and then you're a data scientist, and someone gives you this and tells you to make graphs. They didn't give you units, so, they wanted to know that's what it is. Then you go back and probably knows it.
How does this take into account Pokemon that are 2 kingdoms or types?
Well, the way I separated all of them out, so I divided, because then I had to do research because I had to do that. So I looked at which ones were primarily flying. Some could be bug and flying, and I just decided I took out the flying ones and left them over there. If they were bug and they couldn't fly, those obviously were separate. Just predominantly which one had the most of whatever I was looking at. So it was a fighting and, fire. I decided to just throw that in fighting because fire just has a bunch already.
Get some subjectivity in there.
Yeah, there is.